Hello, and welcome to FortiGuardLIVE. I'm Derek Manky, and joining me once again is Aamir Lakhani. Aamir, you seem to always be connected with me on here. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. We work together every day, and in these past episodes, we've talked a lot about what everybody is talking about because it's front of mind with ransomware. But the ransomware is obviously a broad subject. There's a lot of activities that have been happening, but I wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive and open up the hood and look under the hood to see what's really driving this, what's fueling this. And there's a lot of different components to it. If I look 10 years ago, 10 years is always a good flashback in time. Obviously, a ton has happened in cybersecurity and the threat landscape. We really had the start of the, modern day, let's say, ransomware, malware. That started about circa 2010. There were also a lot of these CaaS, a crime as a service model. So things like botnet rentals, DDoS services, malware creation, obviously the sale of things like zero-day exploits too on dark web. I think that marketplace is still very much there, but it's expanded into a whole bunch of new, let's say, a la carte options today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've always had people like running malware, trying to exploit people, trying to like make money. And it's kind of made the most natural progression. Like basically, if you think of the most deepest, darkest ways people can exploit each other, that's where ransomware is going. That's where, malware is going, is criminals are trying to take advantage of people.
Yeah, and they're really organizing this. I mean, it really is organized crime today, and they're operationalizing it. They're creating models, reward programs. Again, back in the day, 10 years ago, these were these PPIs, we called them, pay per install, because it was very much an infrastructure game. How many, could you just infect 100,000 machines to grow your botnet? If you do, you're getting a percentage of that as a payment. But then came the PPP, the pay per purchase. So are you infecting a machine, and is the victim actually paying for a solution, i.e. a decryption tool or back then it was a fake antivirus software solutions. And it's interesting because they've made so much profit off of this. They're really profiteering. It's gone from commission rates as low as 15-20% up to, in the 3-4 years ago in the zero access days, about 45-50%. And now we're seeing things with the latest affiliate programs for these things paying out commissions up to about 80%, which is quite ludicrous.
Yeah, so just a step back. What we see when you go to like some of these darknet forums, you go to some of these attacker boards, you see these affiliate programs. Usually we'll see like a post on a forum, someone claiming that they have a certain program, a ransomware program or a service. They'll give you some information around it, like, hey, it's written in C or some language. We'll give you some of the feature sets around it. And usually when these forums start off, there's like a discussion where people are asking what features are available, is it available for testing? And once it comes out of that initial phase, what we normally see is the program, the creators, the threat actors that actually create the program, they're asking for some sort of payment or service. In many cases, it's a deposit, and it's a really hefty deposit. I've seen it as high as almost $400,000 on some of the advanced stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of like script kiddies out there that's very, very cheap out there as well. So you can have things for $10 to $15 to $2,500 as well. But the more complicated stuff is very expensive. And they just don't allow you to become an affiliate. They don't say, okay, we're going to take your money and run ransomware. You have to like prove that you've worked with other criminal services, that you've had payouts. They want to actually see that. They want to see like Bitcoin addresses and see that, hey, if I'm going to take you in as a customer, if I'm going to work with you as a partner, I actually want to see that you're going to make me money as well.
Yeah, very much just like crime in the physical world, right? It's the trusted underground networks, right? Meet up at the back of the bar, in this case, on the dark web or other forums. And I think it's, what's happening is what we talked about, the CaaS model, the crime as a service model. All of those things that existed before have grown. Again, you want to rent a botnet for horsepower to use it for a DDoS attack, or pay somebody to write some code for you, or rent a phishing spam botnet to do phishing campaigns. All of that still exists, but what's really prolific and what everybody is really, it's been around for a while now. It's just risen to global fame, I would say, notoriously now, are these RAS models, so ransom as a service. And what I think what a lot of people are confused about is that this isn't just one ransomware campaign associated with the name like Ryuk or TrickBot or Motet or DarkSide. That yes, they're malware families, but oftentimes you see, as you say, when somebody signs up to this, they're paying, they're getting their skin in the game, but they're also getting that partnership where they're actually getting the actual kit and component. How do you compile this? How do you make it customized for your own version, your own variant of that attack? So it's not just a monolithic campaign that's running, right?
Yeah, so one of the things that what the affiliates are doing when they're coming in working with a threat actor is they're providing them normally some reconnaissance on their target corporations or target organizations, and they're bringing in really specific information, like exactly what type of security vendors an organization may be using, email addresses, people to target, subjects that may work in phishing emails. So they're bringing in a lot of information, the affiliates are. And you're right, they're absolutely, it may be the same base code a lot of times, it may be the same base package of an attack, but it is being customized to bypass specific defenses for a very specific organization. And I think that's the difference. We're not seeing those widespread spray campaigns anymore where we're targeting everyone. We're targeting very specific organizations that have a lot of value on them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely, especially that in the last 2 years, it's been a major shift. Certainly in the last year, in 2020 was a banner year, but the last 2 years running has been a major shift, and obviously is continuing at a furious pace. And let's talk about the money. I mean, it's no secret cybercrime is a lucrative industry. If you look at these affiliate programs, so these are the actual cash cows, right, that are paying out those commissions when they have a trusted affiliate or partner on board. They're massive, right? I mean, like if we look back to NetWalker in Q1 earlier this year, there is an indictment against one affiliate of that program. And in the indictment charge, it was alleged that they had made just under $28 million US, one affiliate, pure commission rates. If you look at the big programs like DarkSide as an example, it's about the $100 million plus mark and counting for the actual payouts to affiliates tracked through crypto platforms. Some of the larger ones, as we know, these large ransomware gangs can run in the billions of dollars. And so the profits are just huge, but it's because of what you just said, right? They're going after the big fish, and some of these ransom attacks can be in the tune of, in terms of damages, $40–50 million plus. We've seen that.
Yeah, I do believe, I do personally start thinking, because of the kind of the explosion against cryptocurrency, it taking up in value. Obviously, it's always volatile, and it's been volatile, like even extremely so for the last week or so. It's kind of funny. You can listen to this video probably anytime, and that statement's always going to be true on how volatile cryptocurrency is. But at the same time, I do believe the explosion and kind of the mainstream adoption of cryptocurrency is becoming a motivator for these threat actors to go after and actually get more aggressive with their ransomware, and even more bolder in some of their ransom prices and their claims, and just how they operate. I do always think, are we at that point where we need to have some sort of some sort of policing or some sort of legislative action against paying ransoms or paying some of this stuff? But that is definitely a whole can of worms, and I know we've had some passionate discussions around that.
Absolutely, and we're very active in the industry. So we're working with the Cyber Threat Alliance, with the World Economic Forum, Ransomware Task Force, a lot of great minds in the industry getting together to actually see how we can tackle that problem, because it's a behemoth. It's huge, right? And there's a lot of challenges and complexities underneath that. So let's talk DarkSide. This has obviously been a front and center recently, and going back to everything we just talked about, we have to be clear that DarkSide is not just one operation. Again, this is the ransomware malware family, and there's different variations of these attacks, right? There's different targets, different people running it, again, at the affiliate level. And it's very interesting because we just released unique research from FortiGuard Labs talking about one of those variants, right? So it's not just the entire campaign running, but it goes to show you how much customization. You were just talking about that customization, how much that can be done, right? Because in our research, we saw some very interesting things. We saw in this variant capabilities to look for unmounted shares of networks, as an example. is clever enough to identify those, to actually be able to remount them and infect those, because it was just a simple security measure that some organizations were taking to combat ransomware, right? And essentially try to quarantine their network shares so that data couldn't be ransomed on those shares.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to make it clear, we do believe this is the dark side ransomware. We don't believe this is related to the Colonial Pipeline attack, but at the same time, as more information comes around what dark side did, we have more kind of data points that we can look at and kind of associate to a particular threat actor. And as you said, one of the most common ways that you combat ransomware is through backups, through offline systems. And there's a lot of ways to do that. That's actually much more difficult to do in a very large organizations than it sounds like. So there's techniques such as doing unmounting drives and having offline drives. And this particular ransomware looked for that. It's actually a very simple technique, but it's kind of genius if you think about it, is because you're really going after your headquarters, like what you hold dear, and like your most prized possessions, when you feel like you've done everything you need to do to protect that.
Yeah, and this was another great example of partnership. This research actually stemmed from our the Cyber Threat Alliance and the FBI Flash Alert. So it was a great collaborative action of when this was breaking, how can we get the facts? How can we apply our own threat intelligence to that and get it out the door? So it was a great, end-to-end result here. But it's just one piece of the puzzle. It is really a drop in the bucket when we talk about the global pandemic. That's cybercrime. Even DarkSide itself is a relatively small malware family compared to some of these other, like Ryuk or Emotet, these big operations that we've seen growing in the past. You've been tracking it though, right, Aamir, since last year?
Yeah, first of all, I remember me and you having a discussion. I came across DarkSide on a hacker forum, and I was pretty impressed right away because they definitely had their act together. They knew exactly what they wanted. And what I mean by that is they were looking for very specific people in their affiliate program, people with experience. They were actually doing some sort of vetting and background check. Just looking at their code, when you actually downloaded some of the code and looked at it, it was actually very tightly written. Most malware, most ransomware is actually not that exciting for a researcher to analyze, especially like in a debugger or when you're doing reverse engineering. It's kind of works the same. They were actually using some extra techniques, like some checks to see what version of Windows you were using, what subversion you were using, what other programs you had. As we mentioned, whether drives were mounted or not mounted, how was it connected on the network. They were doing a lot of things that were more and more complicated to do, which definitely makes us think that the people behind that are, definitely have some skills as programmers go, and their code was pretty tight. There wasn't a lot of fluff in their code.
Yeah. So it just goes to show, this is always in our world a good news, bad news situation. The bad news is obviously what's happening in terms of all the profiteering and the proliferation of cybercrime. But the good news is that there's a big spotlight being shone on this now, as you can see from our research, from exposing the tactics, and these affiliate programs as well. And so these are the building blocks we need to do to truly disrupt cybercrime. We're going to continue to work on that with our relationships, as well as our threat intelligence, and going down to the customer for protections through our security fabric too. That's always the end game: make it more expensive for cybercriminals to operate. And I know, Aamir, you're on that front line every day. So thanks for that.
Absolutely. You did mention a good point, is that there is much more of a spotlight on some of these threat actors, and I do feel like these threat actors are kind of going to go out, go under the radar a little bit, because their goal normally isn't to attract that much attention as they have been in the last couple of weeks. I think their goal is to really be under the radar and get paid as fast as possible. It actually makes me think some of the more visible headlines that we are seeing, and I'm not just talking about the pipeline, I'm talking about some of the other things that we are seeing. It makes me think if it was a mistake, or was it something that an affiliate wasn't prepared for. I don't know, I'm just kind of guessing there, but I do think we're going to, regardless, I do think we're going to see a continuance of ransomware, but I do feel like we're going to have to be a little more careful and diligent about finding it, because I feel like these threat actors are going to go under the radar and not make such a splash and try and get their money even faster, and just try and stay away from some of the media and some of the flash that's out there.
Yeah, and it creates a huge ripple effect, because now you're going to have a spotlight being shone on DarkSide as an example, and you're going to have affiliates saying there's too much heat on this. I'm going to try to hop to another another partner, another network, another affiliate program. And I think there's a lot of shifting in that dog eat dog world. That's the dark web and cybercrime.
Exactly. The criminals don't go away. They just like move around and shift around.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Aamir, always fascinating conversations. Thanks so much again for your insight. This is Derek Manky with FortiGuardLIVE.